Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Gemini for January 2019. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Check out my blog and other goodies there. Also, if you'd love to have a live reading, you can check that out. I'd love to give you my insights for the year and beyond and whatever else you want to check into. If you love how I teach and you really resonate, then maybe, well, for sure, if you resonate with how I teach, you will love my astrology apprenticeship program, which may be enrolling right now. Depending on when you are watching this, you can see more information about the next enrollment on my website, anniehelpsyou.com. I will love to teach you astrology in deeper ways. So what's going on in this new month? In this new year, we've got clean slate energy all over the place. All the personal planet retrogrades are done. The post-shadow periods of them are done. So we start out as a really solid new year, which is amazing. And not only that, all of the planets will be going direct. Early in January, we'll have all of the planets moving direct. That is a rare occurrence, and that will continue going until February 18th. Lots of new chapters. The eclipses will continue this energy of bringing in new things. I say continue because even though both eclipses are actually in January, we talked about one of them in December because we often feel the implications for eclipses a good bit before they actually happen. So you might have started to see your eclipse changes and news coming in already by the time you're listening to this. So now I'm going to talk about the second eclipse of the month. We didn't cover that. And I'll tell you where it will be for all of the Gemini placements. Also bringing in new clean slate energy this year and radical new chapters and changes is the fact that we have 3 supermoons as our full moons, our first 3 full moons of the year, including the one eclipse, and they're all at the earliest degree of their sign, which indicates brilliant new chapters, things coming to fruition in a big way, endings which open up the seeds for the new beginnings. So you know, lots of endings, but lots of beginnings. So this is a very, very big time astrologically and lots of changes coming. So since the visual format has worked so well, I've gotten such great feedback from it, I am going to transition to showing you the charts for the early, middle, and late degree Gemini placements so that you can see where the energy is clustered and what potentials you've got sitting before you for this month, this year, and beyond. So let's check out those charts now. Also, as I'm done with the Gemini specific things, I'll talk about the general transits, including my favorite dates of the month, and some of them are my favorite dates of the year for launches and making big decisions in January. We do have some dicey things to move around, and I'll talk about those dates and aspects to be careful of, but lots of potentials for doing important things, and I'll give you my favorite picks for doing that. So let's transition into the charts now. Hello, Gemini friends. Okay, so if you're still with me, that means you're interested in the juicy details of looking at the chart visuals and the breakdown for early, middle, and late degree placements. So let's just really quickly establish whether you are an early degree, middle, or late. So, it's hard to write on this thing. Okay, so the early degree placements are our May-born Geminis. It's a close enough estimate, okay? 0 to 9 degrees if you know your sun sign or if you're watching for your rising or moon. Middle degree would be like June 1st through around the 10th, and that's 10 to 19 degrees. And then late would be like around June 11th for the rest of the sign, through the rest of the sign, and then 20 through 29 degrees if you know your sun degree or if you're watching for your moon or rising. I've been getting a very common question that I'm going to take a minute to answer right now, and if you're not interested in this question or answer, then just fast forward a little bit and we'll get into the Gemini goodies. But I know it's going to blow a bunch of people's minds. It's going to answer a very long-standing question for many people, and so I want to just take the time to help you understand this. When I say to watch for your moon or your rising or your sun sign, there are some people that actually do that. And when they do, they are getting an additional picture into their personal astrological picture. That's wonderful. Some people are even going further and trying to match up the reports for their own charts. I love this. I'm an astrology teacher, and that's part of why I want to encourage this and answer the question, because it could be a roadblock for you. if you are watching for your sun sign, so you have a Gemini sun, okay, and you don't have Gemini rising, you have a Gemini sun, you have some other rising sign, then if you are looking at your natal chart, with the transits around your natal chart, trying to match up the houses, where like there's Jupiter, just for example, if you're trying to match up the houses for your chart, the houses are not going to be the same as for the Gemini sun report, okay, or the Gemini report, period. Because when we do a horoscope chart, we put the sun on the ascendant. It's the viewpoint that we're looking at through. I always call it the glasses. It's like, okay, so the glasses we put on, we're looking through the Gemini lens at the cosmos. Okay, so if you have a Gemini placement, you have part of this Gemini lens as your picture of your experience. But unless you are watching for your rising sign, the houses are going to be in a different place. So like, let's say you have a sun Gemini, but you have a Leo rising sign, then the chart for your natal chart would have Leo here, and the houses are going to be different. So this is basically when we're looking at the sun chart, which is called the solar chart, and you're looking at your natal chart, which is your rising sign on the ascendant, that's two different charts, and they're both just as accurate. So I always describe them as two different windows looking out of the same house with a completely different view, just as accurate and relevant. Okay, so if you've got mountains out this view, and then you've got a busy road out this view with little cars, okay, the fact that you have part of your experience with busy cars passing by is not negated by the fact that you have mountains out this view, and vice versa. So both of them are equally as relevant, happening at the same time, viewpoints of your experience of living in that house. So when we're talking about the horoscope, you're the house, you're looking out at the world through the lens. The lens is put on the rising sign or ascendant placement. And when you're watching for your sun sign, the sun sign is being put on the ascendant for that view. If you're watching for and if you're trying to match it with your natal chart, your rising sign would have to be there. That's why you watch for your rising sign as well, and they'll both give you an addition, each additional pictures into your astrological picture. Okay, so goody. Now that we have that established, let's talk about some stuff for Gemini. So let's check in with Jupiter first. We talked about Jupiter in a big way in November. We talked at that time about Jupiter expanding the first house for you early degree placement, and we said that for you middle degree placements, you had to wait until around January for that to move in. So you can see now it's doing that or about to do that. Okay, so expansion of relationship space from Jupiter's placement has been going on for early, and now you middle friends are joining the party. You later degree placements, you can see from the visual, Jupiter's here. It's got a ways to go before it gets into the 7th house for you. So you still have Jupiter blessings, expansion going on in your 6th house. Okay, so Jupiter brings, sometimes it amplifies problems wherever it is, in order to give you the growth and give you the lessons so that you can expand past it. So for early and now for middle, Jupiterian expansion and luck and benevolence and opportunities are in the relationship sector. So that's romance, business partnerships, even finding a practitioner. Jupiter is so amazing in the 7th house for finding a perfect doctor, acupuncturist, accountant, assistant, collaborator, somebody that you need, housekeeper, mechanic, somebody that you need, an expert in their field, to delegate, to be able to do what you do in a better way and to take headaches off of you. Jupiter in the 7th is amazing for that. Also, if you're building a business, Jupiter is amazing in the 7th house for that. Building clients, building relationships with clients you already have. So you late degree placements, you have that to look forward to a little later down the line. But even now, even though Jupiter's not in the 7th house, relationships are a huge focus for early, middle, and late. You can see the even the late degree chart has a lot of activity in that 7th house. We just don't have Jupiter there yet doing the expanding. We have Saturn having put pressure on it. Here in the middle degree chart, Saturn is, pretty much moved out the 7th house now. And definitely in the early degree chart, Saturn has been in the 8th house. So you can see like Saturnian lessons of work and discipline and, sometimes challenges and things. You've still been having to deal with that for some of you late degree placements. So we have that going on. So it's very much about relationships for all of you, but just for different reasons from the different planets carrying different essences as it's moving through. And Saturn, even though it gets a bad rap, sometimes it busts chops, as I say, and it gives you hardships and difficulties and challenges in the area that it's moving through. But sometimes it manifests things. Saturn is the bringer of form. Jupiter is the big idea energy, and then Saturn actually can bring things into form. It's the materializer. So sometimes once you do the work that Saturn wants you to do, that's the key to get the other end of Saturn, is you got to do the work. So Saturn is wanting people to work hard wherever Saturn is. And really for all Geminis, this is in relationship, because even for those of you who it's passed on to the 8th house, these are 2 relationship sectors. So this story of building, the story of, in many cases, releasing old patterns, healing, things like that. There's a lot of work and a lot of focus on the energy of collaborations and partnerships, finding perfect partnerships, letting go of those that are not, that are heavy, that might be like dead weight for you at this point, things like that. So I also want to talk about the eclipses. Definitely listen to my December report to hear about the first eclipse of the month and the implications for you, specifically what houses and energies it's going to be in for early, middle, and late degree, because I give so much detailed information. I can't go through both eclipse manifestations in the same month. And really, we can very likely, we're starting to feel the eclipse energies from the early eclipse in November and December. So I cover that in the December report for Gemini. So definitely go back there. But this one we're going to talk about the almost 1 degree of Leo lunar eclipse that's happening on January 21st, or the days around there, depending on your time zone. Lunar eclipses tend to bring drama, for better or worse. Sometimes it's really happy drama, like, yay, it's a big accomplishment, yay, we finally did something, yay, all of our work is paying off. And sometimes it's like, ooh, not good. Super stressful. But it's hard to tell how it's going to manifest. So I always say leave a little space around that full moon time so you can, see what comes up and be present with it. Dramatic endings, dramatic new chapters opening. So let's look at the places in the chart where it's going to be for early, middle, and late. The early degree placements, you're having that in the 3rd house. Your middle degree placements, it's on the line there between the 2nd and 3rd. And you late degree placements, that's going to be in the 2nd house. Okay. So all signs can experience the energy of a Leo full moon as something notable going on with children or creative projects, because the sign of Leo is the eclipse is happening for everybody. So creative projects, romance, love, relationships, hobbies. For some people it will be addictions, excess, something coming to a culmination from the Leo energy. From the house perspective, for you early and some of you middle degree placements, this can have something to do with a sibling or an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, nephews, nieces are in that house. Some kind of milestone for them, or something where they need help, or something notable going on there. This can also have to do with your car. Okay, so you, especially you early and middle friends, be really careful, especially when you're driving. When you're driving, the texting, all that stuff. People get more whacked out around these times, and when you have eclipses, especially a lunar eclipse in your 3rd house, it makes it more likely that something will happen to your car or your device. And I know when I had eclipses in my 3rd house during one cycle, I hadn't had any problems like this before. Then all of a sudden I had my windshield was crushed by a snowy branch. And then when I opened the window, it shattered. It was a different time. And then somebody rear-ended my car, and it had to be in the shop for a month. And all of those things are not usual things for me. But in that same period of time of the eclipse, those three energies manifested. Now, what I learned at that time was that if I would have had an inspection for the windshield, for glass coverage, I would have not had to pay for the windshield. So I always like to tell people when they have the eclipses going on here, check your glass coverage, because usually there's like a $500 or more deductible, and the windshield is usually, going to be at least that much. So if you just have them come out and do an inspection, a lot of times they can waive that deductible. And if something were to happen to any of your glass, then it would be covered. So that could turn out to be relevant for some of you. But things like that, your insurance coverage, I've had people tell me, because I warned them about this, that pretty much telling them to save their life. I had one person post and say, I was thinking about what you were saying about texting and walking, and you popped in my head at this moment, and I stopped and I looked up, and if I wouldn't have stopped at that moment, I would have gotten hit by a car. So, it's really important that I take the time to do this and really just take it seriously, be extra careful. And if you do text while you're driving, which I wish people would not do that, but if you are, don't do it now. And definitely have your wits about you and just be more safe when you're moving your body in any way, and also protect your devices, like devices falling in the toilet and being destroyed or stolen, things like that are more likely. But, you could also upgrade and have new devices and new cars, and this is actually a pretty good month for that. I have to say, one of the best months in a long time for having to get a new device or doing an upgrade. So it could be something super simple and positive, manifesting that way, but we got to put the warnings out there. So for the rest of the middle degree placements and for the late degree placements, this drama, completion, fruition, notable event is likely occurring in the earned income house, money, second house, material possessions. Also, could be like making sure you have adequate coverage on your material possessions of note, because sometimes there's something dramatic that occurs, but sometimes it's something positive where you get finally something you've been wanting, the car, the RV, the ring, the TV, the Xbox, whatever it is of material value. And it could also be along the lines of sustainability, like moving along the front of being more sustainable, living in congruence with the earth rather than against it. So for some people, it could be the ending of an income stream. And occasionally it's the beginning of a new one, but it tends to rule these endings. But for some people, it could be a culmination. So it could be like a raise or recognition or some extra money, something like that, especially in those middle and late degree placements. So those are the things most on my mind for Gemini placements. Now I want to tell you about my favorite dates of the month for doing anything important, for launches, making your big decisions. Some of the dates this month are actually my favorite in the whole year. So I'll give you those. I'll also give you the ones to look out for, because there are quite a few of those. It's a pretty intense month, and there are more challenging aspects than there are sweet ones. But still, the energy is pretty much wide open for a lot of manifestation and things moving forward in a big way. So let's look at the general transits now. Okay, so now let's talk about the general transits. There are lots of important dates to note, and I'm going to go into the specifics of those now. The theme of the month for all signs is radical new chapters and wide open stars. As I mentioned before, this is truly the energy of a new year. It can be a very clean slate. We've had a year of retrogrades, pretty much focusing on the personal planets retrograde, and this is like a really huge clean slate time. So lots of old patterns, lots of old programming, lots of old ways of being, brilliant new chapters opening. There are so many reasons why there's so much newness. So not only are we free finally from the personal planet retrogrades and their post-shadow periods, as of January 6th, we also have all of the planets, including the outer planets, going direct. So this is a very rare occurrence, and these wide open stars will last until February 18th. So It is important to note, however, that even though we have all this energy from momentum and moving forward, we do actually have quite a few astrological clashes this month. So as far as trying to do important things or move forward, there are definitely going to be clashes and impediments, but still the general energy is just very open, and many things that we've been working on can really manifest at this time in a really huge way. So we talked at length about the eclipses. Besides the fact that the eclipses are happening, bringing in new chapters, ending old chapters, and then also besides the fact that the planets, will be all going direct, also the first 3 full moons of 2019 are all supermoons, and they occur at the first degree of their respective sign, which brings even more energy of a clean slate and the instigation of many new experiences and ways of being, opportunities, trajectory changes, and other new beginnings that we have really sought after, or some that arise as a surprise. I often get the question, what is a supermoon? So the supermoon is when the moon is at its closest possible point to, or very, notably close. You ever notice those moons where you're like, gosh, the moon looks really big. Like, whoa. Like that. Then that often is because the moon is actually closer to us. That's why it looks bigger. So when this coincides with the full moon, then it's called a supermoon. Okay, so supermoons definitely carry some similar energy to the eclipses in the way that there's more power behind the full moon. So more things coming to fruition and then opening up. Basically things coming to a major climax and new things beginning. So powerful endings, powerful beginnings are definitely a theme that we're having from the eclipses and the supermoons. So I'm going to go into details about transits that I want you to be very aware of. And do note that if you want a written version of the general transit report a month early delivered to your inbox, then go to anniehelpsyou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter, and you'll get this information in writing and more. So I list all the transits that are most noteworthy, along with some information about what you can expect. So I won't go through all of them in this video, but if you sign up for my free email newsletter, then you'll be able to see access to them. And a lot of people really like that for planning because you can see when the dicey transits are, like right there written in front of you, not just hearing it on the audio. Also, if you are planning travel, check out my monthly travel astrology reports on my site, astrologykisstravelbliss.com. And if you like written horoscopes from me, then go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. Okay, so those all will give you tons more information about the transits, how you can best use the energies. So, like I mentioned before, there are quite a few clashes this month, and there's some energy that I would call very sobering. And this is typical of this time of year when aspects get together in the sign of Capricorn. It's kind of very, it's very realist. It's like kind of sometimes time to pay the piper, after the Sag transits of just kind of freedom loving. Now this is the time to get organized, get your taxes together, figure out the financial aftermath from the holidays, So it can come with some sobering or even challenging news, reality checks, but this energy is also fantastic for trying to drill long-term things in to your reality. So like on the 1st and the 2nd, we've got the Sun getting together with Saturn. In this Capricorn energy is the kind of, I don't want to make it mad, but we'll call it concerned energy, where you're like, okay, we really have to get down to business here. So that energy will last a few days, and then there's a square with Mercury. So on the 3rd, and then also again, we have, let's see, on the 8th, and then again on the 23rd. So January 3rd, January 8th, and January 23rd, we have squares with Mercury. So expect on those days possible impediments to movement, some, minor speed bumps, Challenges with communication could feel like a mini Mercury retrograde. So whenever Mercury gets together in the form of a square, it can cause those challenges. So it's going to, Mercury still in Sag is going to come and square, Chiron. Then it's going to come and square Mars. Then it's going to come and square Uranus over the month. Okay, so particularly that one on the 8th and then the one on the 23rd. So 1, 8, 1, 23. Be extra careful with your physical body and with driving. And, these are the kind of transits that I say, like really look out as you're texting. I'm hoping that everyone would just stop texting while they're driving or riding a bike or walking in busy areas. But since I know that's not going to happen, I at least can give you the warning that in the days around those days, there are more chances for accidents, verbal communication accidents, and also physical body and vehicle, and with your devices, like dropping in the toilet, things that would impede your communication through something happening to the device. So just be really careful around those days, extra so. And always remember that I give you the dates of the transits, but the days that we can experience the transits are often before or after the actual transit, because all of the transits have these orbs of energy. So like, something happens on this day, sometimes we feel that over here or on the day or some point after, because the range of influence of a transit has an orb, and the orb is dependent upon the planets involved. So, from a day to 4 or 5 days if we're talking about things with the personal planets, before or after. Okay. That's why I say don't hang your hat too heavily on an exact date. You have to more tune in to the feeling. If there's going to be a sweet aspect, and there are going to be quite a few, which I'm going to have you note here, then if you're feeling the vibes in the days before, you don't have to wait till the exact day of the aspect. If you want to lock something in or do something important, then definitely follow your personal flow, how you're personally experiencing the transits. Okay, one more challenging date of note, and there are actually more that I'm listing, but again, you can go to anniehelpsyou.com and see more about those details. But on January 13th, we have the first of 3 passes of Jupiter in Sagittarius squaring Neptune in Pisces. Okay, so let's look at that here. So Jupiter is here. Neptune is here. Now, also a reminder, I know I've talked about this before, but I want to remind you, when we're talking about general transits, these are for everybody. I tack the general transits at the end of the individual reports. So the general transit that you hear for each sign will actually be the same for all signs. I do that for your convenience, so you just listen to it right after your sign-specific report. When we're talking about the general transits, these houses that these aspects are occurring in don't matter. Okay, we're just looking at the relationship between the planets and not the houses. To understand the houses, that's going to be different for each sign. So just kind of ignore, that's why I've scribbled this out over there. All right, so anytime outer planets get together, they're generally talking about a long-term theme. Okay, so this on January 13th is the first of 3 passes, with the second being on June 16th. And then the third and last being on September 21st. And these are all in 2019. Okay, so it's very well indicated to avoid being overly optimistic at this time, and definitely to avoid risk-taking behaviors that may have worked in the past. This is a time when the expansive nature of Jupiter, it just wants to go big, is kind of put into a challenging angle by this energy of disillusionment or confusion or uncertainty or chaos. And I always see these kind of aspects as nice checks and balances that we have from the universe, because we've been on this big expansion spree since Jupiter has gotten into Sagittarius. And we will continue this for most of 2019, where the energy, is in an expansion mode. Even when Jupiter is in retrograde, which isn't yet, but even during that time, there's this story of expansion is really strong, because Jupiter is in the sign that it rules, which is very excessive in that place. So, in the weeks around the 13th, June 16th, June 21st, like these hot spots will last weeks at a time. Just be really careful. Like, it's not always the best time to take risks unless you're intuitively inclined for sure. The odds are more in favor of disappointment now than triumph. I see a positive way to look at this transit as it helps to show the limits of the expansion that is occurring, because we can't just keep expanding indefinitely in all areas without having a rest or having a check-in or checking sustainability for the things we've, expanded into. It's very helpful for us to have this okay, let's take a step back and evaluate and prepare for future expansion by seeing, if we can manage what we've already done. So we need to have form and structure. We need to have structure to be in form. And so the energy, being very upward moving, this is a time when we're kind of like settling into the new norm and taking a break from the frenetic pace of increase. And actually doing that purposely can be a sweet way to avoid lessons from this. Okay, so now let's talk about the juicy stuff. All right, let's get this out of here. I want to talk about my favorite aspects of the month. There are quite a few nice aspects this month, but most of them are coupled with challenging aspects on the same days. So there's kind of like this sweet and salty going on a lot of the month. But towards the end, put a gold star around the 22nd. Okay, on January 22nd, Venus, where are you, buddy? All right, so Venus is going to come and get together with Jupiter. So put like a big star on the days around this. Now, there are some other aspects around those dates that could be manifesting that could have more challenge. But in general, Venus, ruling love and beauty and money and self-esteem, is going to get together with the great expander. So anytime we have a personal planet, especially Venus or Mercury or the Sun, getting together with Jupiter, it usually means like really good news involving money or love, sweet spot, something gelling, money coming in, just something really, really excellent. So I just love, love, love that day. Now, if you have to do something business-wise, like launching something, oh my gosh, I really love this time. And if it happens to be in anything having to do with Sagittarius efforts, even better. So like teaching, learning, speaking, publishing, writing, spiritual pursuits, church-related things, travel, long distance, different countries, different cultures, different languages. There's even more support around those kind of things coming in, news and other things. But you can definitely use it purposely to lock in some good energy. One of those squares I warned you about with Mercury is on the 23rd. So Mercury squaring Uranus. So just, that's going to be happening at the same time. So if things are weird that exact day, don't, just follow your intuition. But I definitely love the energies of this Venus aspect. Now, the two last sweet aspects that are my favorite this month, they're even better in some ways because they're not clouded by another challenging aspect that's kind of stealing some of their thunder. Okay, so let's get that out of there. So on the 25th, we're going to have Mars in Aries trining Jupiter in Sag. Gosh, this little pen is hard to write with. Okay, so Mars, there he is, and Jupiter are going to come together and be in our favorite trine configuration. Okay, and when that happens, that's the sweetest of all astrological aspects. So this is one of my favorite aspects of the month and even the year because trines with Jupiter are just awesome. So it's a great day for important things. If your intuition is in agreement and the synchronicities seem to line up, I love this for like launch dates, moving forward, making decisions, and it should be relatively clear from that other aspect that happened on the 23rd, or at least it's diluting. All right, so that's put a sweet spot, sweet gold star there. And then the last aspect is on the last day of the month that I love, love, love. You can see that the end of the month is kind of more clear in some ways from the general mischief of the month. Also, the eclipses will have happened, so some more clarity might be coming in about those directions. So on January 31st, we have a beautiful Saturn in Cap sextile Neptune in Pisces. Okay, where's our buddies there? Saturn and Neptune. Okay, so sextile is a 60-degree angle, beautiful aspect. And again, like our other aspect that we were talking about with Jupiter squaring Neptune, that's an outer planet challenging aspect. We talked about the implications of that. But this similarly will have 3 passes. Okay, so January 31st is the first pass. The second one is June 18th of 2019. And then the third is November 8th. All right, so on these days, this energy of material gains coming from spiritual focus and pursuits is very strongly brought into the picture. And again, it's like the weeks around this time. So it can also manifest as any beautiful blending of the lesser seen plus the more tangible realms. So this is like a nice bridge time when people who are doing work on the inner planes, doing work with the law of attraction, doing work with, on the levels that are hard to see. Like you could be working really hard and what we call normal people around you, right, who don't understand what you're doing, might say, everything looks the same in your life. And you say, oh, well, I'm really working. Things are really shifting on the inside. These transits are times when things that you've done on the inner realm can really manifest in a big way. They're like really good affirmations and confirmations that you're on the right track and that inner work really does work. So I love ending off the month with that kind of awesomeness. And also if you have to plan something important, that is a super sweet aspect to lock in. When you're doing something important, the day you do it on is like a birthday in many cases, depending on what it is. And then that chart, whatever's going on that day, gets locked into the story of what you're doing. That's why doing things, on good dates can be very helpful to the long-term outcomes of what you're trying to do, because you lock in good energy and then that carries, that goes with it for the whole venture. So if you'd like to have a written version of this every month, a month early, go to anniehelpsyou.com. If you are already on my email newsletter list and you're not receiving my emails, I send them out religiously. So definitely check your spam, social, events folders. And if you find them there, move them into your inbox to give your email the alert like, hey, I want these in my general inbox, because I'm definitely sending them. So if you're not getting them, then contact my customer service team and definitely first look in those other inboxes. So I hope you love the added effects of the visuals, and definitely go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com, where you can see more about booking a private reading with me. I can tell you more about what's coming in the next year from the astrological perspective and all kinds of other things. Also, if you resonate with how I teach and you would love to learn with me, my astrology apprenticeship program is registering now. So definitely check out my website for details about my astrology apprenticeship program. Also, in the beginning of January, my coach certification and online business course will be registering. I have horoscopes and lifestyle blogs, including astrology for wellness blogs at cozybysweetstarlight.com. And if you're a traveler, check out my astrology travel reports on my website, astrologykissedtravelbliss.com. If you're interested in tarot, you can check out my husband's site. Plus, he also has other information about astrology and some pretty cool offerings. You can check out his website, BR Newman, at iamhelios.com, iamhelios.com. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.